Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, September 29th of 2024. It is a beautiful, beautiful, brilliant day here in Salt Lake City. The colors on the mountains are even more brilliant than they were last week, and this just continues to be my favorite time of year. Besides, September is a very special month for me. Both of my beautiful sons were born in September. Scott was born on the 7th and Brian was born on the 30th, which is tomorrow. So I am a blessed mother to have such beautiful, brilliant sons, and September is a great month for me. So I went into the first of this week, which actually started for me on Sunday as far as this thought process. I've been kind of going through these different exercises of disconnecting from all of my podcasts and things like that, and spending a whole week listening to only music. And then I've really been doing some deep thinking on just the different reality of this world, our states of consciousness. And I went into this week, and it started on Sunday because I had the most beautiful day. It was mostly outside, and I was by myself most of the day. My husband was out of town on a business trip, or on a play trip with his college friends, and he got back late Sunday night. But I had the whole day to myself, and I chose to spend the entire day with just myself. I have a good group of friends. I have some lovely siblings that live here, and I love spending time with them, and I usually connect with them when my husband's out of town. I'll go to dinner with one of my sisters. And actually, Saturday, I did go to the movies with one of my sisters. But on Sunday, after I sent out my Sunday message, I went outside. I went on my 5-mile walk. That was the first actually thing that I did on Sunday. And I accidentally, or on purpose, mentally left my phone at home. And I have this little fanny pack. I put my keys in, I put chapstick, I put some gum, and usually I put my phone in. But I left the front door of my house, locked it up, and I started on my walk. And I was about a mile in before I realized that I didn't have my phone. And I was a little surprised it took me that long to realize, because I'm like most modern humans that usually always have my phone with me, and unless I'm at dinner, or there's other times when I strategically don't have it around me. But on my walks, I always take my phone, partly because I think all of us are kind of conditioned, especially as maybe women and out on a walk by ourselves, that in an emergency I need to call someone. And it was really kind of a cool experience, because on that walk I was not only not listening to anything, there was like a physical freedom that I felt from not even having my phone with me. And the way that I feel sometimes about freedom and privacy is to the extent that no one knew where I was, like physically on the planet, except for, a higher source, higher power, God or creator. But as far as, our phones kind of track us unless we know how to turn all the settings off. But for the duration of this walk, it gave me this sense of silence and freedom and observation and just pure awareness that really set off the tone for my entire week. And what I decided to do for this entire week was to disconnect from not just watching any YouTube, because there's channels that I tune in, and I look, what are they going to talk about next? What's the next thing? It's really easy to get addicted to finding out, especially if there are things that are confirming your worldview. What do they have to say now? What do they have to say next? And I actually, at the moment that I was, having this thought on Sunday, I felt a bit of repulsion in a weird way. Like I wanted to have nothing to do with any of those channels, and I didn't want to talk to anyone that I normally would talk to and confirm all this stuff. And now did you hear this happen? Did you hear this happened? And either feel some glee about it or feel some disgust about it. I just had this overwhelming thought that I needed some stillness and I needed some silence. And I needed silence because I wanted to be more of an observer, and I wanted to be more aware, and I wanted to think more, what is going on inside of me and my heart and my higher self and my connection to God. It was such a powerful realization that last Sunday, that I will tell you, it was a beautiful week. And some of the things that I wrote down, this is random, and then I actually have some really nice things to share with you beyond some of these random things. So one of the things that I thought about is think about all of the information that's available, not just in the mainstream media, but all of alternative media. And I've shared with you guys before that, I received a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I received a strike on my YouTube channel. And it was a random thing about, the jab. It wasn't even about the COVID jab. It was about something else, a different one. And it was it had been up for a couple of years, and I thought, oh, okay, that was odd. And then I've had a couple other videos simply removed. I get a notification that says this doesn't fit our guidelines. And one of them was a video that had been up for 7 or 8 years. It was one of my most viewed videos. It was simply on how to relieve tinnitus and ringing in your ears. I did with Dr. Nielsen, and I shared that with you. And I was thinking about this at the very first of the week. I was thinking, okay, my YouTube channel is tiny. I have, 7,000, a few more than 7,000 subscribers. I don't get that many views. I've actually had YouTube take away views from my videos, which has been very odd. But I thought, all of these channels that are alternative media, and some of the ones that I have watched over the years, like, say, for example, most of you have probably tuned in and watched Russell Brand. And a lot of you have tuned in and watched Tucker Carlson, and maybe Candace Owens. And if you lean a little conservative like I do, those are people that you watch and have tuned in every once in a while. For a long time I watched The High Wire, and about a year and a half ago I stopped watching that. It was just confirming all the stuff I knew, and I didn't need the noise, and it was very freeing to step away from that. Not that I don't think they're doing good work, because I do, but it made me curious about the things that the powers that be, the people who control the censorship, why would they pull down a little video on my little channel so I think it made me really realize, pay attention to these little things, because to me this is where truth lies. Truth lies in the things that the algorithms are pulling away from you. And it made me so fascinated to think about these big channels and these ones with millions of subscribers. It settled this deep thought in me that all of these are serving as distractions as well for who I am and my higher self. If I'm tuned in to see what Russell Brand posts next, what then? If I'm, watching Tucker Carlson on his tour across the United States, and I like Tucker Carlson, but it's interesting. Anyway, that was just like this huge epiphany for me, and then I had this other big thought too, and this is extremely random, but it was, I'm in my early 60s. I was born the second oldest of 14 kids. So from a really early age, when I was able to be responsible, when I was 3 or 4, I already had a couple siblings below me. And my parents then adopted 3 kids that were all under the age of 4. And my mom had 8 kids, the oldest was 5, when they adopted my Native American siblings. And I really thought about this week, during my week of pretty much disconnection from all of the stuff, and even talking to people that I love, some of my siblings. I just spent a week in just observation and silence from the noise that usually distracts me, even the stuff I agree with. But I had this really interesting thought that since I was a little tiny girl, I have been put into a position of just pure responsibility because of my birth order, the family I was born in, the things that my parents taught us. I got married. My first marriage was at age 18. I was 3 months out of high school. And then I was married, I was married for 16 years. I immediately, there was not a big break between when I was married and when I got married the second time. And now I've been married a very long time, more than 25 years. But I've always had this, it felt during this week of observation, this heavy burden of responsibility. And I think that the reason I bring this up is because I don't think, I've been talking about responsibility. That was last week's video, radical responsibility. And in my silence this week, this felt heavy to me. And I felt like I was ready to let others, others help me shoulder this. Or maybe I need to realize that I don't need to put this responsibility so heavy on my own shoulders. And I can let other people be responsible. I don't have to be responsible on the level that I put on myself. And like I said, this was a very random thought, but there might be someone out there who can relate to that. I feel like it's a good time for me to lighten my load. I'm going to continue to be responsible for all the things, my health, my finances, being prepared, taking care of my business, taking care of my amazing team of employees. I mean, these are all things I'm going to take care of, but I have felt kind of this sense of duty and responsibility that probably wasn't mine to take on 100%. And I'm talking about all the other stuff. So, like I said, I wrote down here, no podcasts. This was something I did all week long. I kept it absolutely pure. And my thought was, I was oddly repelled by the thought of them because I found such enjoyment in the silence every single day that went by when I'm out and all of that. I feel like I've changed. My knowing is different in an odd way, in a cool way, but an odd way. I really feel like this week of silence from the noise, and I'm not saying I didn't talk to people. I talked to plenty of people. I talked to my husband. I talked to my son. I talked to my employees. I talked to different people on the phone and different things I had to take care of during the week. But I'm talking simply about the things that that dopamine hit we get when we're not used to being quiet. We're not used to sitting with just ourselves and our own thoughts. In fact, I think a lot of people find discomfort there. They find discomfort in just sitting in stillness and having nothing to distract you. I would say, like, I accidentally left my phone at home last Sunday when I went on my walk. Do that on purpose. And that actually made me do it on purpose for the rest of the week. Where it's like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to go on my walk without my phone, and I'm going to be just fine. I think we need to be a little brave and courageous when it comes to that. So what I did is I wrote down a few things and a few more thoughts about what silence does in different ways. So silence, to me, I've realized this week, is a gateway to higher consciousness. And that it drops in pretty quickly when you can go get through the discomfort of being in silence and not going, where's my phone? What's going on with the new video? What are the reels doing? When I travel, sometimes I have this little word search game on my phone, and I can be distracted by that if I just want to numb out my mind. So all of that went by the wayside, and I think it distracts us from our higher selves. And I believe that silence is that gateway to our higher consciousness, our connection to the divine, to our creator, to God, which we are all a part of. We are a piece of that. We are constantly bombarded with distractions, whether it's from the media, the expectations of our culture, our religion, our families, or technology. We're constantly distracted, and these distractions keep us stuck in a low vibrational state of things like fear and stress and anxiety and apathy and shame and guilt and all those things. These distractions keep us stuck there. Think about something you might watch that confirms your worldview, but it leaves you in a state of anxiety, even a little bit. Say it leaves you in a state of maybe heightened excitement because you feel like it's a positive move toward where you want the world to go, right? And I say all these because I relate to them, and I experience them. So when we choose to cultivate silence and temporarily disconnect from the external noise and tune into our true voice, silence can allow us deep access to insights, our own inner guidance, and the expansive awareness that exists beyond the limitations of this physical world. That's really beautiful. It also allows us to reclaim our mental space, right? In silence, the mental space needed to reflect, question, and deprogram ourselves is through stillness. And we become more aware of the inner dialogue. We become more aware of our inner dialogue and subconscious beliefs driving our actions. So we can become aware of the inner dialogue. And that's the thing. I've spent a lot of time practicing meditating until I realized that it's okay if my mind is busy while I'm, I think that's really normal. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets. And when you separate yourself away from all of these programs and all of the things that you watch and listen to and let into your stillness and your silence, that's what's going to take up the clutter. That's what's going to take up and clutter your mind. It's kind of interesting when you disconnect from it. When we become silent, we start to discern what is truly us and what is truly is versus what has been programmed into the external world. The more that you sit in silence and you this week was super easy for me when I went into meditations. And my meditations are very short. I've never been one to sit for half an hour or even 20 minutes, but I will tell you, I dropped into stillness and into that deeper reflection. And the question I always ask at the beginning of every journaling is, what does my higher self want to tell me today? I dropped into that so much faster this week because I didn't have all the input that I'd put in there. In fact, think about when you get ready to go to bed and go to sleep. If you're scrolling your social media, if you're watching a podcast, or watching a YouTube video, or even reading a book, I think to me that's a slower, probably better way. But that's what you dream about. That's what your brain goes to work on. And one of the things that I really try to do in the evening before I go to bed is sometimes I'll watch a movie with my husband, but then there's always space between bedtime and the movie, because I like to go outside. I like to be in the stillness. If anything, I like to contemplate what I want to focus on for the next day, and I let my brain go to work on that. And I think about what I'm grateful for, and I think about what's beyond all these external distractions. And you really can't let yourself get there unless you make a conscious effort to. So the next one is the stillness, and the silence gives you awareness, and it allows you to observe without attachment. Okay? So awareness means observing the world without becoming emotionally entangled in it. So when you allow yourself the quiet, then you can observe things without attachment, and you don't have to get entangled in them. You don't even want to get your emotions entangled in them, right? By stepping back and witnessing the patterns, the behaviors, and the events that are all around us, we begin to see through the controls that dominate human life. We begin to see that. If we can emotionally untangle ourselves with that silence. That's so beautiful, right? And then we can become an observer. We can adopt the role of an observer and rise above the chaos and the drama of everyday life. We no longer need to react to fear-based tactics that the media, the alternative media, the politicians, all of that. We no longer need to react to that. In fact, there's a beautiful little routine, eight things you do before 8 a.m. that my nephew wrote. I think it was his first article 10 years ago that he wrote that went viral. And this is Benjamin Hardy, who's written many books. I've interviewed him on my channel. But it made me think of this. If you think about what happens when we get up in the morning, it's usually reactive because we turn on our phone, we open up our email, we're automatically reacting to whatever's in our feed, whatever's in our inbox, whatever, if you have young kids or, there's things that come at us. But if we take the time to maybe get up early and put into place a little routine that could literally take you 5, 10, 15 minutes. In fact, I'll look back and see if I can find that. I did a little video with him years ago. I will put it below this video if I can find it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I can. But you're now in a proactive, you're not reacting to all the things. Now you have just created space for yourself to have an absolutely different day than you might have had than if you just, if you have a phone next to your bed and the first thing you do before you even get out of bed, you pick up your phone and you see maybe you have your email on there. I don't even have my email on my phone. It can wait. It can wait until I've had my little morning routine, okay? So to me, that makes a big difference. And then the next thing I wrote here is the power of being fully present, because that's what silence does. It gives you that personal power. Our consciousness is often hijacked by distractions, right? And it gives us fear and we either focus on the past or the future, and we have fear about, or we have anger, or we have, whatever happened in the past, and then we have fears about the future. Right? So when we use mindful presence, when we're present, the practice of being fully aware in the moment, this is the point where true freedom and power exists. And my writing is so bad here, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry for maybe not the perfect smoothness here. The more present we are, the more we can access higher states of consciousness and see beyond the distractions that are there. In fact, one of the things I will tell you that this week has done for me is that it even now has heightened my sensitivity to all the billboards that are along the freeway here in Salt Lake City. I mean, the distractions and the noise and the propaganda and all of the BS literally are coming at us from everywhere. So I drove along the freeway a couple times this week, and I didn't have anything on. Usually I will have something I'm listening to on when I'm in the car. This was my week of silence while I could, and those billboards actually were oddly disturbing. I didn't want them there. It was very interesting. So I think if we tune into the subtle energies and become aware of the patterns that are in our environment that we can observe, then we won't miss the things that we miss because we're distracted by everything, right? So silence and awareness, these are simply tools to help us in our awakening. And remember, awakening comes in layers. This is not a one-time, okay, I'm awake, everything. Think about 5 years ago, almost 5 years now. This coming new year, 2025, is going to be 5 years since the world shut down in March of 2020. And if you're like me, I knew what was happening, but there were so many more layers that needed to peel back for me. It's been really a fascinating thing. So Silence allows us to break the habit of reactivity, and that's what I just talked about when you go into your day with maybe a morning routine, because now you're breaking that pattern of reaction. When we are constantly reacting to external events, we are easily manipulated by these things that distract us, like, gives us fear, anger, and it can even give us division. And we see that everywhere. It also, the stillness and awareness give us a conscious choice, because we can consciously choose. Like, I didn't consciously choose to leave my phone at home, but wow, I grabbed that opportunity and was like, I'm going to now consciously choose what I do with the rest of this week. And this is not something I'm going to do just this week and it's going to be over. I'm going to make a lot more of a conscious effort. And the way I feel right now, there are some things that I will not be tuning into again, just because. It's like, why do I need to do that? Why do I need to see everything that's happening politically? Every little thing, the person that I follow, and I listen to the latest thing. These are distractions, people. These are distractions. And we might be so used to that dopamine hit at this point that we wouldn't even know how to handle ourselves. Okay, so I contemplate that. Now, the last thing is that we can use this observation that we get in silence in order to transcend all of the stuff. So that's the thing. So here's what I wrote. We can see the pattern. When we observe, we see the patterns in society that actually perpetuate the control of us. We start to see the patterns, like the billboards. Those are patterns. And of course, I've always seen them, and I usually always notice them. But it's interesting when you've separated out of some of the noise, how you notice that kind of glaring noise that you don't have control over. It's there. It's there. Whether it's a cycle of fear that is promoted by the media, the divisiveness in politics, or simply observing these patterns without attachment or judgment allows us to rise above them. Okay, we just observe them. That's what silence does. We get to observe, we're aware, and it allows us to rise above. By becoming aware of how the system operates, we gain the power to reject its influence over our lives. We can simply reject it, say no. So here's what I wrote, and I'm going to end with this. When we embrace silence, we cultivate deep awareness and observe the world without attachment. We can transcend the limitations that of this external control. It allows us to awaken to our higher consciousness, break free, and escape the noise. And this is the key to unlocking the deeper truths of our existence. It's interesting, as I read through this, I started doing these Sunday messages of love about almost 3 years ago. And it's interesting because, most of you know, my channel is Barlow Herbal. I post herbal videos too. But what's interesting is about a year in, I got this email from a person who was a customer, and she didn't really like where my Sunday messages of love were going. She felt that they were too new age, they were too taken away from maybe a religious context. And she said, it was and it was not a bad email, but she made the observation that I was on a spiritual path, and it made her curious. What would make someone like me who does herbs want to share my spiritual path? And it was a really, I took it in the context that she meant it. If she meant to kind of say, hey, don't do this, stick with your lane, here's your herbal lane. I didn't take it that way. I just thought, well, you know what, if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, just don't tune in on Sundays. And I think the whole thing is really, really fascinating where we find ourselves. And I will tell you, I really, really love that I have reached a point where a lot of these things that I allow in still into my brain, into my thought process, into what still distracts me, is now starting to repel me. Like, this makes me so grateful that now I can say, okay, what next? What's next? I am open to any possibilities. And I think this is what, we're all searching for. This is why we wrap into certain belief systems, is because we're searching for something more past this. And, it is truly true that we are in a time of a great awakening. I kind of don't think it's the first time humans have been here. But I hope that we get it right. And it might just be each of us individually with our own beautiful conscious self, not this physical vehicle, but what is inside, what is in here. Individually, we get to deconstruct the matrix, whatever that looks like. We get to do that individually. It's funny. There's some friends I talk with, and I've said this before to a couple of people over the years. This is the last time I want to be here. There's can be evidence of reincarnation, and our soul comes back and we learn lessons, and some of that is starting to not make sense to me. And this is, again, my own journey. It's not meant to offend anybody or any of that, but I want to transcend all of those layers. I want to have a new layer opened up, and I want to go, oh, okay, this one feels right. This feels good here. What's next? And this is simply my own personal journey, but I've had some really deep, beautiful conversations with people that also have said the same thing. This is a very dense planet. There's a lot of joy here, but there's a lot of suffering here that is, most of us know, it's completely unnecessary. It doesn't have to be this way. So, interesting thoughts for this Sunday. But what I would suggest is try, even for a day, if a whole week sounds like too much to disconnect from all of the things that you tune into, and try it for a 24-hour period, and then add a second 24-hour period. See if you can get through an entire week. Because for me, I'm going to continue this for a while, and I'm not saying that I might dip in and see what, like, I love the Inspired channel, and I don't get to watch all the time, just simply because my time doesn't, I'm luckily a super busy person, and that things I do bring me a lot of joy. But, I might dip in and see what John and Christine are doing over there. But I wish for you a beautiful week. Sit in the silence. Let it expand your awareness so that you can observe what is really going on and what is really true for you. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate you being here every week, and I'd love to know what you think about this. So have a beautiful day and a beautiful week ahead, and we'll see you next time.